not down for a while.
Well, that's just something new they've added in. Jack's probably out. Oh, there he comes. I hear him sneaking up on it.
We're all Rodney West right now. Whoops.
You
I
wish.
turned you off, Jack. Let me change my name to my right name here.
Change it to your real name?
Yes. Not Rodney West. I only play that on television. Hey, just a second. Let me turn my lights on. I'll be right back.
I'm gonna switch around.
I
Switch around
had
here.
45 minutes to turn the lights on. You think I'd already had them on?
No, I saw you get up and leave a few times. I saw it. Thought I didn't notice that, but I noticed that. WWE investors secured approval for $39 million settlement.
Yep.
What was that about? Do we know?
It was that WWE overinflated their potential earnings from their Saudi Arabia deal by a lot.
Oh.
And a lot of people bought stock at the time, because they thought that all this millions and millions of dollars was coming in, and it didn't. Or not to the degree that they said it would.
So how much trouble are they going to get into?
$39 million worth.
Yeah. And they're just paying it. I mean, at this point, $1 billion company, that's a tax write-off for them.
That it's not going to be a.
But I wonder, though, really, was that their fault, or was it because of the COVID that caused all that?
I don't know. I think this was before COVID. That's when it happened.
Oh, okay.
And somebody had asked something about the Cauliflower Alley Club. I think it was Dean Silverstone. They thought that he was kind of over that, but Dean was never over that. Mike Mazurki started the Cauliflower Alley Club in 1965, and the only presidents have been him. Red Bastine was for a long, long time. Nick Bockwinkel was for several years, and now B. Brian Blair is the president. So Dean was on the staff. There's a bunch of people. It takes a bunch of people to run that thing because it's not some small deal. It's a big deal.
Well, now Iron Sheik don't like B. Brian Blair. They just don't.
Well, there's
he
a
always
few,
wants to fill in the camel clutch and do other things too. Now,
I like Brian. That's me personally, but yeah, I know some people don't. But I know y'all gonna find this hard to believe. There's some people out there that don't like me.
What?
See, I was not. Well, what about Rodney? He liked Steve Kern. Steve Kern. Michael Barr, how you doing? Michael, Jack, that was a great interview. It was a good interview. Rodney, good to have you back. Dan Lang said, hey, Janetti. Oops, Rodney is back from back case of sniffles.
Oh, they still linger. Occasionally I have to go silent there for coughing fits sometimes. But
how do the wrestlers get cauliflowered ears, Jack?
That is from putting those side headlocks on really, really snug.
Most amateur wrestlers have it more than professional.
And I'm going to give everybody, a word of advice. Y'all write this down, share it with everybody that you know. But if you ever have the chance of getting into a fight with somebody and they have cauliflower ears, walk away.
Exactly right.
That's true.
Those men and women, I've seen women with them. They will hurt you.
Yes. Richard Hood said Tony Atlas has some beef for B. Brian Blair as well. He got into it with this guy in New York or New York or Eastern Wrestling or something like that. What was that all about?
I don't know. Tony gets into it with everybody. Tony made a statement about not too long ago about how black people never got into the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. and he had already been told he was being inducted this year when he said that, but he had forgot, I guess. And then the Hall of Fame also sent him a list of every person of color that was already in the Hall of Fame, and there's several. So Tony has not issued an apology, which I've noticed Tony doesn't do that. So.
Let me ask y'all this, and I know Rodney hasn't watched it, but Jack, you might have watched it. Did you watch In Your House that had Tony Atlas, Pat Patterson, Mean Gene Okerlund? Have y'all ever watched that?
Uh-huh.
Tony was the most hated person on that TV in that house.
Yeah.
They did not like him at all, period, on that show.
And he earned every bit of that.
He did. Rodney, if you've never seen it, you've got to watch. This is a very good show, I thought.
I've seen bits or pieces of it, not the whole thing.
Now I want to say, for anybody out there wondering, I don't have heat with Tony. I've never met Tony personally. I just know that he says stuff that does not ring true a lot of times. He is not at the Manny Fernandez level, but he's approaching.
We got to know Tony, and I like Tony. Tony's always been nice to me. I remember one time we were selling candy, cookies and candy for the school, and Tony was working there at the time, and Tony bought almost $200 worth of cookies and candies. Now, I don't think Tony Atlas ate cookies and candies, but
he did not.
He bought $200. I have to give it, so we could win a prize or whatever it was. And Tony is the only wrestler that worked for Georgia Championship Wrestling at the time that bought that. And I have to give it to Tony. He was always nice to me when he was working for World Championship Wrestling. He was good to me. But I do seem that he does say some stuff now.
Well, and the thing is I hear a lot of stories like that about Tony, though, about, he's a good guy. He's good to people. He just, I guess he doesn't understand. He's kind of tainting his legacy in a way, by some of the stuff that he says. But then again, I guess he doesn't care. And you got to admire that.
That is true. I remember Tony Atlas one time. We were in Columbus, Georgia. We were at the Municipal Auditorium, and somebody said, "Hey, Tony, flex a muscle," and he went like this on his. You remember that, Rodney?
Yeah.
Showed his. I like Tony though. Tony drew a lot of money. Tony was over. He definitely was over. Boxers get cauliflower ears as well. That's probably from them punches they receive. Stuart Kemp. We always seem to have politics with someone else. You never get past it.
Yeah.
Robert Grice. How you doing, sir? Yes, I am sporting. This is what you call I did not work, did not go to work. And so I actually shaved. That was the only thing that I did today. Other than that, I have not done anything today.
Nobody's commenting on me parting my hair on the other side.
All right, we're going to do something a little different today because I want it to. Everybody knows Dave Measure, and so we're gonna look through this. What he says about the Wrestling Classic. I think we all remember the Wrestling Classic. I think was actually one of the first pay-per-views.
One of the first, yeah.
So we're going to talk about that. So let's get started with that right now.
Okay.
My head's a little crooked or something. Or either that or my head's crooked. I'm not for sure which one.
So it's your cauliflower ears offset.
Like the T-shirt there, Jack.
That is Bobby Flacco. That's a buddy of mine that wrestles over in Georgia. His gimmick is, "Hey, it's Bobby," and he's a great guy. He's about 100 pounds and 4 feet tall, but he's great. I may be exaggerating 4 feet.
All right, here we go. 45, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pro Wrestling Inside and Out. On this episode, we're going to look at the Wrestling Observer. One of Rodney's favorite people in the world, Dave Measure is how you say his name, right?
Meltzer.
Meltzer, Dave Meltzer. Excuse me, Dave, you're out there. I couldn't even get your name right. But I have been reading your stuff for many years. I want to read this because this, for whatever reason, here's how it looked. There was not any opening stuff to this. It just started right out,
out the gate, wide open.
I mean, it was just crazy. This is what he says. He says, I know there's no other page to this, I don't think, because it doesn't look like anything's been tore out of it, but it says TV announcer Gino Monsoon, Ron Trodgar. I heard him once on ESPN, and I immediately thought of this category: Gordon Soley, John Heath, Gene Okerlund, and Bill Mercer. He's putting it down as one of the worst announcers of all time.
Well, right off the bat, that would make you want to just tear it up and throw it in the garbage. Because at this point, he has no credibility.
It makes no sense. I mean, Gordon Soley, one of the greatest commentators in the history of professional wrestling. I don't know John Heath. I heard some of his commentary. He may be correct in saying to John Heath. I didn't watch him enough. And Ron Trongard was spectacular.
You just didn't want to look at him. You didn't want him on camera. He had the face for radio.
Rod Trongard. Rod Trongard. I don't know.
Yeah.
Did you like him?
I thought he was pretty good.
I mean, he just wasn't something to look at. He wasn't pretty dude or nothing.
No. I liked his voice.
And Gorilla Monsoon was good. I just don't get it. Well, here's he say. He says the worst match of importance: Flair versus Rose at Tulsa's WrestleFest. Flair versus Chuso. How you say that guy's name? He's a Japanese guy. Choshu.
So what year? What year are we talking about here?
This would have been probably 1985, I believe.
So, and it was Flair against who in Tulsa?
Flair versus Rhodes at Tulsa's WrestleFest. You remember they had the big WrestleFest?
Versus Rhodes, like Dusty Rhodes?
Dusty Rhodes, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, Dusty Rhodes. I'm not saying that match wasn't bad, but you can watch it. It's available on the internet. The whole show is. All right, here is something else. He says, really not that bad, just a disappointment. It's what he says about Chuso, or how you say, 85% of the bouts in the WWF. He says they're the worst. Worst live thing I saw was John Studd versus Mr. Wrestling 2, Slaughter versus Zerkoff, Andre versus Studd, worst wrestler on interviews, and this is where he loses me. Mike Von Erich, which that might be true. Mike was not good on the mic. Ricky Lance Vaughn. I guess that was after he got through out of being one of the Von Erichs. And Thunderbolt Patterson. It was a great interview. By the way, back then he didn't call them promos, by the way. They wasn't called promos, by the way. This was wasn't this the only thing you could get kayfabe stuff on back in the
sheet. That's the reason it's a rag sheet.
All right, this is what he said. Now, and evidently, this had to be, because it doesn't say anything else on there. So maybe there was a page on this before. Maybe Bill Watts didn't make the copy of it. Because, by the way, we got this from Bill Watts. Bill Watts would make the copies. We never got this personally ourselves. Bill Watts is the one that got this, and he would get one copy and make all kinds of copies of it and send it out to people. So, Dave, if you're needing some money, go ask Bill. Bill made copies of all your stuff. All right, the biggest wrestling event of the past few weeks was the Wrestling Classic out of Chicago. Y'all remember that, November 7th?
They gave away a Rolls Royce, right?
Yes. As a TV show, it was very good. I was favorably impressed, and if I had spent $12, even if I'd spent $12 to sit. So back then, pay-per-views were $12, or even going to live shows were only $12. Back in 1985, 84, I guess it was 84, 85. In fact, I think it was one of the best wrestling cards I've seen all year. And the best WWF card I've probably ever seen. What I was most impressed with was the talent that was really an impressive list of athletes. The work rate, the normal slow pace, boring WWF style bouts were rarely evident. I'm going to tell you what, he wasn't too keen on Vince, was he? The announcer, Gino Monsoon, is terrible. I just never seen that. I just never saw that in him. But he was bearable. Ventura was excellent. And then Jesse Ventura was always good. Ain't no doubt. Pacing the show, there was no long delays, and the border match was released over fast, so the attention span was never diverted. Unpredictability, having babyface versus babyface bouts, particularly Steamboat versus Smith. Was that Davey Boy Smith? I don't remember them wrestling each other on that.
I don't remember that. I don't remember him ever being a heel up there, Davey Boy.
Well, they must have been babyface versus babyface match. Also, as stupid as it was, Funk lost the Moondog spot. I don't even remember that. At least you wonder what would happen next. Randy Savage, the guy simply made the show. A few complaints. He's got a few complaints over here. He said, in keeping the show to a 2.5 hours, the bouts were all very short. If they would have been long, he had probably complained about that.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense, that helped the show, making a fast pace, but a few of the bouts really deserve a few extra minutes. A 3-hour show would have been better. If it would have been 3 hours, he would have said it should have been 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yep.
Steamboat versus Smith, Steamboat versus Savage could have gone 6 or 7 rather than 3. So the Steamboat Smith match only went 3 minutes. It's been a long time, but I thought I'd just watch this recently, and I don't remember any of that stuff. Here's the interesting thing, though. It drew 14,000 people. I bet they would be very happy if they drew 14,000 people when they come back, when everything comes back, which considering the line is not that good. I think I'd be very happy with 14,000 people. It did a gate of $148,000. And it said that was only half of what Vern drew for his big show 1 month before, which really doesn't have as much talent nor main event much better. So in other words, he drew better. I don't have a pay-per-view figures, but I estimate it went to 60 to 80,000 homes at an average of $11 a home. So they're figuring 65,000. So they did $715,000, which was split half to Titan Sports and half to Video Techniques. That was the name of the pay-per-view company back then. Video Techniques. I don't know the cost. I don't know the cost of the whole project, but I doubt they exceeded the $500,000 Titan made from the venture. So I assume it was a very profitable. Here we go. Adrian Adonis pinned Corporal Kirshnev. Well, if anybody knew Corporal Kirshnev, that probably wasn't that good. I wouldn't think that was very good. The second match was Dynamite Kid. Dynamite Kid pinned Nikolai Volkov. Number 3, Randy Savage pinned Ivan Pusky. Number 4, Ricky Steamboat defeated Davey Boy Smith. Oh, I see that. Somebody just said that he got crotched on the top rope there. That's how he lost that match. Number 5, Junkyard Dog pinned Iron Sheik. Moondog Spot got beat Terry Funk. Tito Santana pinned Don Morocco. Didn't Junkyard Dog win a battle royal on that?
I don't remember. I watched that, but it's been during COVID, and I had my mask on my face.
When you look at this, when you look at the things that he said, and if you go back and look at the things that he says today, sometimes they don't match up with each other from what he said about people back in 1985 compared to what he says about somebody in 2021. It's very interesting stuff about announcers. Does he say good things about Jim Ross today?
I have not read his stuff in years.
Well, you're probably not missing nothing. We would get this just to see what was going on in the world. I don't know why Bill Watts would get it. You think Bill Watts would be hot?
Well, typically because at that point, anything that was detrimental to Vince, and he was keeping it with Vince hot and heavy back then.
That's true.
Is possibly the reason he was sitting out, because most of the ragging was for Vince's show, as you can see.
Well, he does talk about Mid-South Wrestling. The big news here is that Ken Mantell has bought. He says he has bought into the wrestling office, and I think it means he has brought, because he never bought into Mid-South Wrestling. And the new general manager of the group, Mantell had been the booker in Dallas for most of the past few years. From what I understand, Bill Watts is going to take a smaller role in the operations of the group, with Mantell handling most of the day-to-day business. That never happened. That didn't even happen then. And Dick Slater doing the booking. That never happened, did it?
Don't believe so.
I don't believe that happened. The TV title term will probably start in either late November or December. Supposedly, the last 2 TV tables have been 2 of the best in the history of the group.
Yes. The history of the group. I don't know at what point that you just don't take and wad that up and throw that in the garbage.
Well, no, we got to look at this, because we got to see the stuff that he says. This makes no sense. How can it be the best of the group when it wasn't drawing in 1984, Dave, at the biggest houses they ever had? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You're not making any sense. You didn't make no sense in 1985. And I don't know if you make sense today, because I don't
see it.
Well, the thing about Dave is he's not actually going out and seeing this stuff in person. He's getting people telling him. So if somebody in Watts' organization has an axe to grind, and we all know in every organization there's going to be plenty of those kind of people, then they're calling him and they're saying, "Hey, Dave, here's the scoop. They just bombed. It was terrible. It's awful. They don't know what they're doing." And just, feeding him whatever. I don't know if he paid those people, for info. I don't know how that worked, but his news, even today, is not 100% accurate. That's why he's very sketchy still to me.
It's very interesting to go back and read what he had to say back then. And we were there. In these places, most of these places.
And if Ken Mantell was doing a day-to-day thing, I don't know how that could be. We've never seen him. Never saw him one time the whole time we were there. They were there, what was it, 2 months? Never saw him once. And he wasn't there later because Eddie Gilbert was booking, was he not?
Well, Ken Mantell was not there, but he said he bought into the group, which, again, that was not true. He also says that Dick Slater was going to do the booking. Well, it wasn't. Ken Mantell was brought in to be the booker, not to run the day-to-day company. So I just don't. I don't know. I'm very leery of what he said in this thing. But the Wrestling Classic was a great show, by the way. It was actually one of the first pay-per-views. A lot of people think WrestleMania was the first pay-per-view, but the Wrestling Classic was the first pay-per-view they did. And it was very successful. And I can remember some little old lady won that Rolls Royce, I believe. And they had her on that TNT show, which, by the way, was one of the greatest shows in the history.
Yes, it was.
If you never watched TNT, do yourself a favor, go see that. We were all cringing in the wrestling territory, saying these words: "He's killing the wrestling business. He's killing the wrestling business." And for everybody else, it could have happened. He might have killed the wrestling business, but for him, he made a lot of money. If you enjoyed this video, give us the big thumbs up. Subscribe to the page. Go one step further. Hit that notification bell. And watch the next video. I don't think it's going to be about Dave Measures' book. So go ahead and look them down. We'll see you in the next video. Man, I didn't even read that. What the crap?
My buddy Carl Stern actually writes for him too. Now, Carl does some great stuff. I mean, he really does digging and But Dave it's just like he just throws stuff out there.
And he did then. I mean, there ain't no way. I don't, Cornette always loved him. They don't get along now, but he loved him back in the day. And here's the problem. You know why he loved Jim Cornette then? Because Jim Cornette would call him and give him the scoops. So he loved Jim Cornette. Why does he love I don't even know the guy's name. Whatever the guy's name, champion AEW, whatever that guy's name is. I never remember his name.
Ken Omega?
Kenny Omega. Why does he like him? Because he calls him, tells him something. Everybody that calls him and tells him something is the greatest thing in the world.
Well, and Dave he's a huge Japanese wrestling fan. And I get that, but he thinks everything has to look just like Japan. And I honestly, I don't know that Japan wrestling would be as popular here. I don't think it would. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like back in the territory days, you couldn't take Memphis wrestling and make it work in Georgia. It's two different crowds. So, you got two different nations.
And I'm watching today. I have been watching 1977, 78, 76 WWF. And that would not have went over well anywhere else except for there. Yep. It was just so dry. And even there's some matches that are really good. Zbyszko, I watched Zbyszko and Bruno Sammartino, awesome. I saw Bruno and Stan Hansen, awesome. But that wasn't going to draw in Southeast.
No, but I don't think you could have, as much as we love Georgia Championship Wrestling, I don't think it would have drew in New York. No. So, people are conditioned to like a certain thing over time. And, that's just what they want. And today, I think that's still, we've mentioned this, like that's one of the big reasons wrestling doesn't draw like it used to, because it's not centralized anymore. You're not catering to certain areas, the way the territory system did.
And the guys that own the companies knew what it needed to be done. Yep. And when it quit drawing, then they would say, okay, let's try something different. But as long as it was drawing, they would stay that same formula. But see, I'm thinking that's what Vince's problem is today, is he's continuously doing the same thing without changing. And he used to be good at changing. That's just what I don't get. Richard Hood said Tony was an attraction back in the day because of his physique. Yes. And he was a good wrestler, too.
He was very good.
I think we already said like the T-shirt. Rick Brooks. I haven't been a fan of Brian Blair since he said in an interview he was 6-0 in real fights for wrestlers, including Matt Bourne, Buzz Sawyer, and others. I found it hard to believe he whipped. I couldn't see that he could beat Buzz Sawyer. Well, you know what, Rick, there's probably a little truth to that. Because Matt Bourne was probably messed up. Buzz Sawyer was probably messed up at the time he beat him. So, yeah, he probably did. Yeah, he probably whipped him. I mean, I'm just guessing.
I've always wondered if when Brian goes into his house, does he always have to go through the garage? Because if it wasn't for his head, those shoulders having to get up there, it's too big to get through a regular door.
Jack, have you ever wrestled a wrestler that didn't have good hygiene?
I never wrestled one that didn't have good hygiene. I stretched a bunch of them.
Everybody always said Adrian Street always had an odor about him because he would eat that garlic and something else all the time. It was horrible, they said sometimes. It'd be coming out of his pores. Stuart Kemp, no way did he beat Bourne. Bourne was plain tough and scary sometimes. I know as we housed him near the time he passed, he was scary when he wanted to be, yes. Paper shredder anyone, yes. But they're interesting to go back and read. They really are interesting to go back and read what he had to say. And
I thought even back then we took and ripped him a new one when we read crap.
We did.
We thought, what in the world does he know? And I think he said stuff about Gordon. And that's what it really just turned us off. It just destroys your credibility completely.
Well, what I liked too was how Cornette, even though he was the one giving him a lot of the information, went to the extreme about making everybody think that he hated him. Because even on Smoky Mountain, he had a wrestler that just flat out just got eat up as a job guy, and his name was Dave Meltzer.
Cornette was feeding them everything, and we always used to say, if you want to get on Dave's good side, but this was what's so sad. By the time WCW was there, they would read them and believe them. The office people, and I'm not talking about Dusty Rhodes or the wrestlers. I'm talking about the people in the office was believe that crap that he was spewing was correct. It was crazy. Richard Hood said the greatest Gordon Souther's best commentator. By the way, and something we're going to talk about, and we're probably going to do this tomorrow night. Jim Cornette said that Harry Thornton was a horrible announcer. Now, how would Jim Cornette know if Harry Thornton was a horrible announcer when he lived in Louisville, Kentucky, or Lexington?
Hold on. I'm dusting the crowd off of me. Hearing that.
How would he know? He didn't watch Harry Thornton. He didn't get the show in Louisville, Kentucky. He's full of crap. And if he'll come on the show, I'll tell him how full of a crap he is, because that he just wants to talk. And then people say, well, he'll tell people he don't do things on purpose. Yes, he does. Everything he does, he's working everyone. And he's smart enough to work these people where they talk about him and give them publicity. He knows what he's doing. But Harry Thornton was a good announcer. Was he Gordon Soley? No. But there wasn't many people that were.
No. Still not.
No. Lance Russell was good. He was good. Charlie Platt was good for Southeastern. So these people. Rick Brooks, Tony's mad at Brian because of Brian's version of Tony against Paul Orndorff real fight.
I think I did read something about that.
So he got mad at him because did Tony get beat? Or I thought Tony said it wasn't really a real fight. It was just them scuffling in a bar somewhere. And they meant to do it like amateur wrestling, which Tony Atlas was he an amateur wrestler?
I don't remember.
I think Paul Orndorff wasn't he?
I think so.
Where was Bill Watts' territory? Be Mid-South Wrestling, Louisiana. It started out in Louisiana. Then it went to Mississippi and Oklahoma and
Arkansas and
Arkansas.
Houston, Beaumont, Texas area.
Let's not forget the office moved to Dallas.
That's right.
Vince is not too keen on Vince.
Well, I don't know. I think he's pretty keen because he don't listen to nobody else. I think he sits in front of a mirror and says, "What do you think?" I think that's great.
Man, I wouldn't want to look at myself in the mirror right now if I was Vince. Whew. Man.
It was funny. I was watching those shows from Madison Square Garden. I saw Vince Sr. walking back through there yelling at the announcer to explain what the cage match is because he forgot. So he made Finkel get back up in the ring and announce how the cage match was to be won, how you could win it just by going over the top or through the door. But yeah, he's all over Finkel about not announcing that. So he had to get back in there and do it again.
Yes, David Boyd crotched himself the ropes and couldn't continue. Okay. Charles Bellflower must have been Irving Smith if it only went 3 minutes.
Could have been.
Why would you let there was other matches that went 7 or 8 minutes. Why would you have Steamboat and them go 3 though? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But by that time, but we don't know the dressing room politics at the time now.
And let's remember, Steamboat was brand new there, and I'm pretty sure Davey Boy was too, and he didn't want to hurt either one of them.
Yeah.
So you do that kind of screw finish, and that way neither one of them's hurt.
What was the Russell Fest? What was the fest until? Yes, it was outside. Jerry Reed, I believe, was the person who was going to be singing that night, and he was supposed to come out and do autographs. He would not come out of his bus. So Bill Watts, Scott Munns, a guy named Scott Munns, is the one that booked this thing. He's the one that booked Jerry Reed. He said, Scott, I want you to get on that thing and get Jerry Reed out here and do this meet and greet he was supposed to do that he agreed to do. I'm paying him good money. Tell him get out. See, Scott Munns come back and said he won't do it. He said, oh, yeah, he will do it. He will. He said he went over there and there was two guys standing in front of that bus. And they said, sir, you're not going to get in there. He said, I'm going to tell both of you guys right now. He said, I'm going to whip you both. I'm going to hurt you both. Then I'm going to go in there and hurt him. So you can either step out of the way and I'm going to drag him off that bus and he's going to do what I tell him to do. And them two guys decided they was going to get out of the way. And he got up on that bus, grabbed a hold of Jerry Reed, threw him off that thing and said, you can get over there and do that or you won't be singing because you're going to be in the hospital. Now get over there and do that meet and greet now. And he fired Scott Munns over that. But I don't see how it could have been Scott Munns' fault.
That was a lesson learned. We could have told them that if they'd only asked us.
Yes.
We could have told them if we had only. People do not go to wrestling to watch rock shows. People do not go to rock concerts to see wrestling matches.
No.
They don't go to baseball games to see wrestling matches.
No. Brent, there must be 2 pages of the great book of pictures missing, and these are the 2. I was thinking all day, I just wanted to read through that because the things he says, it just makes no sense. Dan said, Mantel did leave World Class for Watts and took a lot of talent with him. Yes. But it wasn't 85, it was later. Yes, he did. And that's the reason that story made no sense because I know he didn't buy into it. Watts wasn't going to sell him part of the territory. No. Now he might have sold him the whole territory.
If you want to say, normally the booker did get a percentage of the gate. Yes. That's normally what so that might have been where people thought he got part of it because always booker made percentage of the gate.
But by the way, saying that was the best shows. Now, Ken Mantell did do good shows. Now, yes. I can't take nothing away. He had great shows. We used to say, if somebody wants a good television show, but if you want a good wrestling show, a good wrestling company, Ken Mantell wasn't the guy. Just sorry, he just wasn't because he didn't care about none of the shows. Didn't care
about the house shows at all. No.
And that's how they were making the money.
Yeah, and it was like going to see 2 different shows. You'd watch the TV, then you go to the house show. It's difference of like night and day. It was not the same at all. No way.
Yellow journalism sales. Yes. Michael Barr said that Dan, that had to be later at 5. Dick Slater was booking. Dick Slater came in after a booking committee. The booking committee was Grizzly Smith, Ronnie West, Bill Dundee. No, Bill Dundee was gone, wasn't he? Dick Slater. No, Dick Slater.
Bill was there. Bill was still there.
Bill was still there. Okay. Bill Dundee was there. Dutch Mantell was in it, and Bill Watts. So here's the 5 people. They get rid of them. Bill Dundee goes back. They put Dick Slater as the head booker. I think Grizzly Smith was his assistant. I don't remember Dick Slater having an assistant booker. I don't even think Bill Watts liked having assistant bookers. So there was no assistant booker there because I think Grizzly might have always been the assistant booker. So when Dick Slater left, they bring in Ken Mantell. They change the name. We leave. We go back to, it was 1986. It was beginning of 1986. We go back to Alabama. We stay there until almost the end of 1986. By that time, Ken Mantell was already there, and they'd already changed the name of the UWF. We got there and said, man, this is not the same company.
No.
It just was not. Michael Hayes was something there, okay? He was something. He could have been assistant booker for Ken Mantell. But it wasn't good. Fans believe whoever's commentating in the area is the best. Well, that guy that whoops your head out, I don't know. But they did, though. I have to admit that Big Jim Hess got over big time. I mean, they drew a lot of money. He was the local personality. Brent, are you wearing a total package? No, that actually is Cozumel, Mexico. I'm ready to go back on a cruise. Supposed to go in December. So I'm hoping all that happens during Christmas time. It's going to be my Christmas gift. I'm going to call somewhere at the drop of the hat and make a complaint. I have a complaint department. Oh, well, the complaint department is a guy named K. Fabe, and you can get in touch with him anytime. One of the funniest things I ever heard is when some girl come in and said she knew everything about wrestling. She said, I know everything about it. I know everything going on. And old Tracy Smothers looked at her and said, well, let me ask you a question. Do you know K. Fabe? She said, no, but I know Joyce Grable. I'll never forget that one. I mean, I about died. Didn't Blair get into it with his son? Did he, Jack?
Seems like maybe he did.
Michael Barr, what gets me, there were many talented wrestlers back in the territories days, and this day and time, there are new wrestlers that try to copy it. Should they create their own character? I think they should, but in the time, hadn't they all been done?
It's not possible for them to do it because they can't wrestle nightly. If you ever want to know the development of a character, check out Billy Graham. He describes it perfectly. It is trial and error over years to create these things. Roddy Piper didn't come to Atlanta and it was his first time on television. It developed that year after year after year, and starved some places, I'm sure, in the process. But it takes years to develop some of this stuff. It's just not something that just automatically comes to you. It's trial and error and getting influence from, like in Billy Graham's car, Dr. Jerry Graham, Vern Gagne, even down in Eddie Graham. So you have all this exposure to all these different techniques, and helps develop you and polishes you.
And let's remember too that now you don't even get the option anymore of coming up with your own characters. Creative WWE makes you something, and you have to try to do the best you can with it.
Sure.
And those guys that's going to succeed will make the best of it, and they'll do a good job. Undertaker, Mark, he did what he had to do to make that gimmick work.
I remember that Stone Cold interview where he said McMahon called him and said, "Is this the Undertaker?" And he said, "I'm sitting at home with no job," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is the Undertaker." I had no clue. Didn't care.
and honestly, never was there anything. Nobody else could have done that except for him. I don't care who they did. Nobody. No. Because his personality was for it. I mean, his personality was perfect for that. Absolutely perfect.
Cornette was one of those guys that traded VHS wrestling tapes. Yeah, but he didn't trade tapes of Harry Thornton. They didn't have a VHS tape during Harry Thornton's time. Harry Thornton's time was done by 1979, 1980. Yeah, so he wasn't trading.
Yeah,
he wasn't trading Harry Thornton's tape. If he was, I'd like to see those tapes if he has.
And they would be still floating around. There's some, but you'll not see a full show. I haven't seen a full show yet.
No,
and I'm looking hard for it.
Here's the thing. I had a cousin that worked at that. It was at TV 12. Is that where they taped that? That worked there for a few years, and he said they gave him carte blanche to tear through everything there. That as far as they knew, everything had been thrown out. But he said he got to go in every storage area, look through every box. Because I had told him, I said, if you can find it, we can make some money off of it. And they were just going to give them to him. But nothing.
Yeah. But he just, I don't understand how, he didn't watch Harry Thornton in the 1960s. He didn't watch Harry Thornton in the 1970s. They didn't show that TV program in Louisville, Kentucky.
If it had not been for Harry Thornton, I would not have ever become a wrestling fan. Harry Thornton and his excitement is what turned me on as a kid to getting into wrestling. It wasn't, the wrestling was great. Don't get me wrong. The wrestling was great. But Harry Thornton he was a fan. That's the way he reacted. I thought he was absolutely one of the best at what he did.
Yeah, I think so too. Him and Sturm Brewer both was great.
Yep.
Brent, I think Larry Hamilton's interested in coming on the show. Okay, good. I love to talk to him. He said that would be good. Tony did have an amateur background, Richard had said. Let's see. I was a bit disappointed with Gordon sold the book, expected better and too much about car racing included. I've not read any of his books.
Yeah, the car racing was a big part of his life, though, so I understand why it was in there.
Michael Barr said, hey, how can a television time limit be 1 hour when the television tape is only 1 hour to begin with? Hey, you know what? That makes some good sense. But now, don't forget now, the commercials, the match is still continuing. And if there is a winner during the match, during the commercials, we'll bring it back to you on instant replay. I
remember ESPN had that match between Kurt Hennig and Nick Bockwinkel. It ran the entire length of the show. I mean, they opened with the bell ringing, and it finished right as it went off. Great.
Richard Hood said, I wish I could find All South Wrestling Alliance team. Yeah, that would be so good if you could do that. Could or is it possible to make money by making copy of a VHS TV studio or an in-house match from territories? I don't know that people will pay for it.
If it's old and it's out there and it's able to be digitally enhanced, Vince either has it or they're trying to get it.
Yeah.
Because they understand the money value of having stuff like
that. Explain a one fall Texas death match. That doesn't make any sense. But they always used to say there's going to be a one fall Texas death match. Because didn't you have to be counted out? 10 count for Texas death match?
No, falls did not count.
Wasn't that drag your opponent?
But didn't you have to be? Didn't it do the 10 count?
Yeah, 10 count, right?
So I guess it would only be, but it wouldn't really be a fall though. So Charles, you're making some sense. There was a lot of things I watched the other day, and I'm thinking, no wonder we wasn't drawing at that point. You ever go back and watch something and just think to yourself, "Oh, makes sense why it wasn't drawn."
Yeah.
1979 Atlanta, right at the end there, when they had Austin Idol doing the leg lock, $1,000. They had a superstar doing the Cobra hold, $1,000. Sterling Golden doing the. Everybody had some kind of deal. If you break it, you get $1,000. All that stuff. I think it was Louis Tilley, by the way, doing that. I think he was booking during that point in time. I think Dad used to say, how many are we going to have of these? In other words, there are a lot of great matches that are lost. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Was on a poster someone has on Facebook. I see. Yeah, the Las Vegas leg lock. Universal Troubles today.
If you're having withdrawals from watching Austin Idol, he's on the new NWA show.
That's all right. I'm gonna pass on it.
I saw what's his name?
Kairos.
Is that who he is? He's on Fox, and he had an Austin Idol T-shirt on the other night.
Yep. Austin's his manager.
Ah, okay.
Right, Brent. Now that you go back and watch, you think of better ideas. Now, I don't really think of better ideas. I can just see why I wasn't drawing. They'd always say this is what they'd say all the time, and this is what. It's just a cycle. It's just a cycle. Wrestling goes through cycles. And I used to explain this. I used to tell Dad, I don't know if that's true. And so let me explain this. Let me see if I can get this. And this was when I was 14 years old, 15. I said, right now, Atlanta's not drawing. But when you go to Memphis, they're selling out every Monday night. But y'all can't draw 500-600 people right now in Augusta. So is it different areas that cycled? Or is it just, does Augusta and Columbus and Macon all have the same cycle to them? Because they said, well, the cycles are different in Memphis. I said, well, if they're different in Memphis, why ain't they're no different than Augusta, Columbus? Why ain't those any different? They're not. None of them are drawing. So, but you're saying Memphis is different because it's not on a cycle. I said, but none of these towns are drawing. I said, you ever think maybe just nobody wants to have something they don't want to see?
I like to chime in if you don't mind on this right here. As you know, as you well know, I hate to start something. As you know.
Well, we'll let you do
Wait a
this. Then
minute.
we gotta go.
Let me get my waiters. All right, go ahead.
Memphis still had its show dedicated to Memphis. The Mid-South Coliseum still was still running. Their formula had not been disrupted. Atlanta's has been destroyed, so it needed to be started from the beginning. Had to rebuild its foundation. And you're certainly not going to do it when you have Kevin Sullivan and Mark Lewin doing the ball busting matches. Those are not going to cut it. Georgia was consolidating everything. You could watch TV on Saturday night on TBS, and then that same exact show's bicycle throughout the entire place instead of having, and in every single other market is bicycle. You've already seen the show. So all you do is you watch on Saturday, so there's no need to watch the local show in Augusta or any other towns. Am I right?
Exactly.
So the bottom line is, if you make the investment, the same thing happened with this thing with Nick Goulas and Jerry Jarrett. Look how it won. Jarrett won Memphis, but lost everywhere else. Right? He did win in Nashville. Nick spanked him real hard and sent him back to Memphis. He didn't win in Chattanooga. He spanked him and sent him back to Memphis because he kept his live show in Nashville. He kept the live show in Chattanooga. He kept the live show in Birmingham. And drew more than any other promoter ever. Nick Goulas drew more than any other promoter ever in Chattanooga and Nashville. Nobody else has drawn ever since. And it's because he made that investment of having a local TV show that was designed for that market. And that's the thing. With consolidation, when they consolidated these shows, you can see the attention to detail, the attention to the wrestling fans waned. And they just gave up on it because all we're seeing is just cooker cutter from Atlanta.
You know, I agree with Charles a little bit. TV did affect wrestling, and my mother stopped going when Barnaby Jones started on Thursday night. And I could understand that. Do you know they ran the night that they came to Who Shot JR? It came on that night, and we used to say, "Man, you ain't gonna draw nothing." And actually, we were in Fort Payne, Alabama. That's exactly where we were at, Fort Payne, Alabama. I remember that day correctly because Dad cussed a lot of people that night. Some guy that had the microphone, had the PA system, got cussed. I don't know who that was, but he cussed him like a dog, told him to take that. He said, "You take your PA system and shut it." Had no commentary, but there wasn't 40 people in that building. Say 40 people. Free Birds on the main event. I don't know who they were against. I don't remember that. I just remembered that. I just remember having a record player. And it was a record player, and you could actually, it had a little bit of sound, and that's the only thing, music that was going on that night when the Freebirds came out. We actually played that without no PA. But I remember that. But so, yeah, television, I think, can hurt wrestling, especially when you have nothing people want to see to begin with. Yeah. All right, guys, we're going to have to get off of here. We're at 9:17 right now, but thank you guys so much. Tomorrow night, number 93 tomorrow night. Rodney's back. He'll be able to tell us his 93 in person. Jack has his 93. You have your 93 ready. And then tomorrow night, we're going to look through a couple of programs. And then the next week, we're going back to the Wrestling Champions. I worked on that today, but I got to finish it up a little bit. So, Aaron, how you doing? Aaron, didn't even know you was with us. How you doing, Aaron? He said, well, 93 weeks from now, we will be done in a long time. Well, you know, we got to talk about something. You got to talk about something every week. And you know what? It's been very good shows, I think.
Yep.
A lot of things are talked about during that time. And sometimes a lot of wrestlers maybe we didn't even speak about, we don't even talk about, have been talked about. So that's good. All right, guys. See y'all tomorrow night. Thank you all so much for supporting the channel. And we'll see y'all tomorrow.